Two best friends, two global superstars, two suicides, just 6 weeks apart. What really happened behind the spotlight of South Korea's most powerful industry? Because the truth about Sulli and Goo Hara isn't just about two tragic deaths. It's about a system built on perfection and the cost of breaking that illusion. They smiled for cameras, bowed for fans, and became faces of an empire built on beauty. But behind the choreography and the glamour were secrets, loneliness, pressure, and a friendship that became their only refuge. This is the story of two women who dared to live as themselves in a world that punished them for it, and how in the end, their honesty became their undoing. You're watching K-pop all day, where we don't just report stories, we reopen them. If you believe every voice deserves to be heard, hit like, subscribe, and let's go deeper. They were born into a world that promised perfection, a world of dazzling lights, where little girls learned to smile even when their feet bled. South Korea's entertainment industry didn't just make stars, it manufactured them. Chejin-ri, later known to the world as Sulli, entered that machine before she even turned 12. A child actress with wide eyes and quiet strength, she radiated the kind of calm that made cameras pause. To the public, she was untouchable, the perfect daughter, idol, woman. Across Seoul, another dreamer was training, Goo Hara. She didn't come from privilege. She earned her place through sweat, rejection, and sleepless nights in cramped dorms. When she finally debuted with Kara, her charm lit up a nation. Her laughter was infectious, her confidence magnetic. Two girls who never should have met, yet fate made them sisters. They weren't bonded by fame, but by understanding. Sulli once said Hara was the person who never judged me. Hara said Sulli understood what silence meant. Their friendship was quiet but fierce, built on late-night calls, tearful confessions, and small rebellions like skipping practice for coffee or turning off their phones just to breathe. But behind their smiles, the cracks were forming. The dream factory that had made them idols had also taken something they could never get back: their freedom. In K-pop, everything is managed: your words, your image, your emotions. Every laugh on a talk show is rehearsed, every candid moment is staged. To be loved by millions means never being allowed to be yourself. Sulli resisted first. She spoke her mind, questioned traditions, and lived openly. Makeup-free lives, bold opinions, unfiltered humor. Fans called her weird, arrogant, unbecoming, but she was simply being human. Hara admired that courage. She once said, "Sulli has the kind of bravery I wish I had." But bravery in K-pop has a price. Hara was already carrying her own scars. Her mother had left when she was young, and she grew up proving she was worthy of love. Fame gave her applause, but not peace. When she cried, the world mocked her. When she smiled, they said it was fake. Still, she smiled anyway, because idols are trained to. By 2018, both women were veterans of survival. Sulli left FX and was branded lazy, ungrateful. Few knew she was battling panic disorder and anxiety. Hara's private life became public humiliation when an ex threatened to leak intimate videos. She fought back in court, but the sympathy never came. Through it all, they leaned on each other. Messages, calls, check-ins in the middle of the night. Sulli began posting strange, poetic thoughts, fragile but defiant. Hara worried. She recognized that kind of loneliness. They were icons to the world, but inside, they were just two young women trying to hold on. They had everything, except peace. And in the fall of 2019, that peace would finally shatter. In 2018, her ex-boyfriend had secretly filmed her and threatened to release it. The scandal exploded. Overnight, she went from idol to headline. The media swarmed, strangers mocked her pain, and she had to relive her trauma for cameras. She wrote, "Everyone makes mistakes. Please stop the hate." But it didn't stop. When her ex avoided jail, Hara posted again. Is this the value of a woman's life in Korea? It wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was humiliation, broadcast to millions. When the spotlight fades, silence can be deafening. For Sulli, that silence began to fill her apartment, an airy, sunlit space in Seongnam that looked calm on the outside but felt hollow inside. She had decorated it with warm colors, soft fabrics, and plants that she said made her feel alive. But in her final weeks, even those plants began to wilt. Friends said she was trying to heal. She filmed content, accepted brand deals, even smiled for photos. But behind those smiles, there was a stillness, the kind that comes after years of noise. Her manager later shared that in those last few days, Sulli seemed unusually quiet, as if carrying something too heavy to speak aloud. She was working, he said, but she wasn't okay. She had posted a few photos online, one of her cat, one of herself smiling faintly, eyes tired but peaceful. Fans commented that she looked happy again, but the truth was she wasn't. By October 13th, 2019, she had withdrawn completely. Her phone activity slowed, her messages became shorter, she didn't pick up calls. The next day, her manager tried reaching her again. No answer. Something felt wrong. At 3:21 p.m., he went to her home and found her lifeless inside. The police arrived shortly after. The lights were still on, her belongings untouched. She had left no note, only the quiet presence of a life that had carried too much pain for too long. Autopsy results confirmed there was no foul play. No one else had entered the apartment. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful. Outside, fans began to gather. Flowers and letters covered the ground, and as the news spread, the same world that had once called her unstable began calling her angelic. It was the same story, the same cycle, again and again. They loved her when she was gone, but couldn't love her when she needed it most. For Hara, those weeks were like walking through fog. She had flown to Japan for work just days after Sulli's death. It was her way of coping, staying busy, avoiding stillness. In interviews, she spoke softly about her friend. Sulli was kind, she said. She wanted everyone to be free, but she couldn't hide the sadness in her eyes. Between shoots, she'd scroll through her phone, stare at photos of them together, and whisper that she still couldn't believe it. In private, she was struggling to breathe under the weight of loss and exhaustion. Her manager later said she was fragile but determined to keep moving. When she returned to Seoul, she tried to pick up the pieces, performing, meeting fans, pretending life was normal. But there were moments when the cracks showed. On November 23rd, she posted a simple message on social media, "Good night." At the time, fans thought it was nothing more than a routine post. But on her private account, one only close friends could see, she wrote something else. "I'm scared." That night, security footage captured her arriving home at 12:35 a.m. She looked calm, carrying her bag, keys in hand. She turned off the hallway light, closed the door behind her. No one else came in. Her housekeeper arrived the next afternoon. When Hara didn't answer the bell, she used her key. The apartment was quiet, everything in place, except for the stillness. She found Hara in her room. A short handwritten note rested on a table nearby. It wasn't long, just a few lines described by police as negative in tone. The TV was still on, the curtains half drawn. She was 28 years old. News broke instantly, and once again South Korea froze. 2 idols, 2 friends, 2 tragedies just 6 weeks apart. Hara's Japanese fans were devastated. Korean fans gathered outside her home, leaving candles, letters, and photos of her and Sulli together. The image of the two of them smiling, arms around each other, began circulating online. It became a symbol, 2 best friends who had tried to live honestly in a world that punished them for being human. Their deaths weren't random. They were echoes, one following the other, a haunting rhythm that revealed the sickness beneath the glamour. Because Sulli and Hara didn't die from fame alone, they died from the silence surrounding it. Both had reached out for help in their own ways. Both had spoken about depression, about isolation, about wanting to live freely. But the system they belonged to didn't know how to handle imperfection. In the idol world, sadness isn't allowed. Vulnerability is edited out. The only acceptable emotion is happiness. Anything else is a risk to the brand. So they smiled instead. And when they couldn't anymore, they disappeared. After Hara's death, people began connecting the dots. Comment sections that once mocked her filled with apologies. Fans who had attacked Sulli now said they missed her. And the media, the same ones who had scrutinized their every move, suddenly spoke of mental health awareness. It was all too late. Because by the time the world decided to listen, both voices had already gone silent. And that silence, that unbearable quiet, became the most powerful statement of all. In the weeks that followed, South Korea entered a period of reflection. Politicians called for tougher cyberbullying laws. Entertainment agencies promised better mental health care for idols. But for fans who had followed them since debut, the damage was irreversible. It wasn't just grief they felt. It was guilt. Because deep down, everyone knew that the same culture that celebrated their perfection had helped destroy their peace. The tragedy of Sulli and Hara wasn't just about what happened in their final days. It was about what led them there. A lifetime of pressure, judgment, and isolation wrapped in glamour. And if there was ever a moment for change, it was now. Because two young women had already paid the price. The news of their deaths didn't just break hearts, it broke illusions. For the first time, South Korea was forced to look at the darker corners of its most profitable export, K-pop. Fans stood outside SM and DSP buildings crying and holding candles. Comment sections, once cruel, turned into memorial walls. But for many, the apologies came too late. Because what killed Sulli and Hara wasn't just loneliness. It was the system that profited from their pain. Idols are trained to smile, even when they're breaking. They are told not to date, not to gain weight, not to have opinions. Every move is watched, every mistake amplified. Sulli broke that rule. She spoke her mind, wore what she wanted, and challenged the image of the perfect idol. The backlash was brutal. Thousands of hate comments flooded her posts, and when she tried to defend herself, they called her attention-seeking. Hara too was punished for being human. Her ex-boyfriend leaked private videos in an act of revenge. She fought back publicly, taking him to court, and won. But the victory was hollow. The shame, the whispers, the "she deserved it" comments, they never stopped. The government promised new anti-cyberbullying laws. Agencies announced mental health programs, but inside the industry, not much changed. Young idols still collapse from exhaustion, still cry in secret dorm rooms, still fear becoming the next headline. Their deaths started conversations that K-pop had avoided for years, about mental health, privacy, and the inhuman standards forced upon its stars. Still, for many fans, the lesson was personal. They learned too late that words can kill. Time has passed, but their names still echo. When fans talk about Sulli and Hara now, they don't just speak of idols. They speak of truth-tellers who paid the ultimate price for being real. Sulli's old live streams, where she laughed, spoke freely, and defied expectations, have become symbols of bravery. She once said, "I'm not a bad person for being honest." That line has turned into a quiet anthem among fans who felt unseen. Hara's legacy lives in her fight, not only for herself, but for every woman who was told to stay silent. Her legal case helped push South Korea toward tougher laws against digital abuse. She changed the conversation. Together, they left something behind. A reminder that being kind, open, or different in this industry is revolutionary. When people look back at that era, they'll remember the glitter and the glory, but they'll also remember two girls who dared to be human. They laughed, they loved, they fought, they fell. And in their short, shining lives, they showed us that idols are not machines. They are people. This has been K-Pop All Day, where we don't just tell stories, we give them voice. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications because we're just getting started. More untold stories, more truth behind the fame, only here on K-Pop All Day.